Hello, and welcome to the Old Farm Bus Podcast. This is the back of the bus session.
Hello and welcome to the Old Farm Bus Back of the Bus Sessions podcast. Today I've got a mate on the bus with me. I'd say you're a mate, but I've only known her about a week. I did her podcast, Creative Ways podcast. Go check it out. It's amazing. And I feel like we bonded. Yeah. So welcome aboard, Emma Issacs. Yeah. I like bringing the energy on the bus in the morning.
Love it.
And you like bringing the colour. Look at you go. You look incredible.
Oh, you get to 41 and you start thinking, just wear sunglasses if I'm too much.
Could never be too much, and I'm loving the top that you've got on.
Yeah, Six Music, it's where your favourite band to work day. And I'm
favourite
all for
band
that.
to work
yeah,
day.
Love it.
Bowie, big part of your life?
Yeah, I just think credit where credit's due. And, you know, back in those days, you had 4 channels on the TV. If you followed a band, you were all in. And I just think there's something beautiful about him. And most of our music comes back to those greats, doesn't it?
I mean, musically, absolutely incredible, but pioneered so many things along with it. And you're a creative, so
fashion.
Did he really inspire you in your field? First
man to wear makeup and do all of that kind of... I think he was just a breath of fresh air for everyone and gave people freedom. You know, we've got to remember of that time. I mean, I'm 41, I'm not of that age, but of that time, it was very much Teddy Boys, Beatles, very suppressed still, Drifters, and then Bowie comes along and just chaos. I love a bit of chaos.
Who was first? Was it Bowie or Prince? Similar?
I think similar time, but I think Bowie's older than Prince. Yeah, I love Prince. And you know what? His last gig, I couldn't go because I was pregnant. How dare my son?
Oh, wow.
And then he died.
Oh.
He died. Weirdly, he died the day I was going to do the London Marathon. And I went to see Bowie had just died. So that's weird, actually, because I was in London and I went to go to Brixton to see the Bowie. You know, there's a big graffiti. You've told me you went with your mum.
We had to go and do a grieving process with my mum, bless her.
Yeah, Prince had just died that summer.
Oh, man, that was it was a strange year.
Yeah, lost a lot.
George Michael?
Yes.
Was there somebody else in that mix as well? Michael Jackson? Or was he a bit before that?
Yeah, then Amy Winehouse.
Oh,
just
mate.
all the greats. They say, don't they, all the greats don't live.
They all went at the exact same time in that year. It was a horrendous time for it.
Yeah.
I remember it's a tricky one, because my mum was so driven by Bowie. Everything, paintings, we've got all the record, everything. And we just got over the Bowie we went to London, went to Scotland as a family and just seeing everything Bowie. And then, Prince was after that, wasn't he?
Yeah.
And then, Christmas, blooming George Michael.
Yeah.
Was it Christmas Day?
Yeah, or Christmas Eve, because obviously it's such a cliche with his songs.
Yeah, I remember that.
And for me, I'm massively in the law of attraction. It's that thoughts become things. That's
creating
so weird.
realities.
Yeah. Crazy, but
I
Prince,
suppose...
it was definitely April because I was doing the London Marathon, so I know that date, and it was such a shock.
I suppose for those artists though, that bittersweetness behind it, and to pass on in such a sweet way and a beautiful, that had meaning behind it and message.
Yeah.
You know, Bowie, he had the album Black Star, didn't he?
Yeah, that he wrote. Is this the one he wrote knowing he was ill?
Yes, yeah. And I think they call certain cancers black stars, don't they?
Yeah, they do.
When they see it in the scan. So for them to be able to have that moment where they've let their art see them out. Oh, I've got shivers thinking about it.
I know.
What a way to start a podcast.
I know, sorry, I'm
going
all
to be crying already.
Music's massive for me though. Do you know? And I thought it was for everyone until one of my friends. It's a long time friend's wife actually, but we've been friends for 20 years. She said, I don't listen to music. I don't have any music. I was like, what? Sorry, what? I don't understand it. I just assumed everybody did, but I grew up with music in the car, my mum and dad, like even if it's not my type of music, and I've started listening to Radio 1 again and Capital because my kids are 8. And I loved the fact that growing up, my dad got into my music. He started listening to Gatecrasher and Dance, and he was older. My dad he was 35 when he had me. So that's quite old for my age. Normally, your parents are quite young. And he always went to gigs with me, was into festivals. He knew who like Judge Jules was. And I love that. We should be looking at what our kids are into instead of saying, oh, it wasn't like that in our day. And that's the worst thing you can do.
Yeah, I'm of 100% agreement. Say you don't like music is literally like saying I don't like food. Because it's so eclectic, it's so universal. There is really something for everybody.
Always.
Spoken word style, jazz, on-off beat, hip-hop, classical. There is always a sound that can take you, even without words, to a memory or to a part of your life where you were really happy or really sad. Music is so accessible, so I feel just sorry that
it's harrowing.
Somebody I can't actually comprehend that somebody can not understand music.
Don't
or
see
feel
her
music.
anymore, mate.
Yeah. But
Dead to me.
I get it at schools a lot because I do an activity where we cut up lyrics and we throw them at each other. And it's just words being lobbed about, but then we go and collect them and put them on a sheet of paper, and it's called form poetry. So the first line that you pick is the first line of your poem, and you just pick and stick. So then you pick something underneath, and out of randomization, you've built a poem. It's really fun.
It's a great exercise.
But the second a kid goes, I think they're just sometimes being a bit off with you anyway, or just playing you. So I go over to them and we have a discussion, but I let them use film lines or something like that. But then they realise a lot of the film quotes they're picking are used in tracks and music, and they get listening again, and that's where you sort of get them thirsty for words and so on. So
I love that.
Yeah, it's just understanding lyricism, diction, old poetry, new rap. It's all intertwined.
And blues. I mean, you went to Africa, didn't you? For me, that is my motherland. I went there backpacking. But what I loved and found fascinating about Africa is they don't have loads of books because a lot of them didn't write, but they have songs and poems that have passed down generation, and the beats, and just seeing small kids and they know how to dance, and it brought up so much feeling, and it's just that energy is huge. And when there's no music for me, when I was depressed and I did have a breakdown, I realised, because it's something that happens gradually, and I'll say it to people that I coach or chat to, you won't realise how many things out of your life have gone missing at that time. But are you reading? Are you listening to music? Are you walking?
Yeah. They're
the things that go when you're feeling crap. And there's medicine men that say that to people, like, are you dancing? And it's a big thing.
And that's why we've got the equation of mind, body, soul.
Yeah.
Because like the reading, are you feeding that mind? Are you dancing and moving with the body? And for the soul thing, or you meditate, so on. And you can always equate it back to that equation, can't you? And bring back, I need to add in that back in my life, or reintroduce this back into my life. And it's very simple at times, but I understand the fog. And from what you just said then, you've been in the fog before, you've felt them pains. And I've enjoyed your podcast so much because you're a great listener and just being an awesome human. Beforehand, I think we spoke for an hour and a half, 2 hours. I mean, we did have Nick here and it was a party first, but I'd love to do that with you now. Hear a bit about your story. Hear about how this energy that you are emanating now is built, because it's just lovely. And then, going into your travelling days and your arty days. So what do you do now as well? What is just so my listeners understand who you are and what you do.
Right, so I'm a surface pattern designer. I used to design for Hallmark and Marks and Spencer's. So cards and wrapping paper. If you go into Asda or Sainsbury's, I'll have designed a lot that are there.
Wow.
I do fabric as well, so bedding with an agency. So that's freelance, because obviously I lived in Leeds and then came back to Derby to be with my family, because I had a family. I wanted to be near.
You've not done them cushions behind you, have you?
No, but that's IKEA. I knew straight away who they are. No, IKEA is amazing they do great designs. Yeah,
Playful.
Love all that mark making. Yeah. And so I've become freelance, but then I got into teaching, and I didn't realise my love for showing young kids and my passion that's come from, I didn't realise art's being taken out of school, pushed out a lot. And so for me, I'm being fed that kind of, to see all these kids with anxiety, because I am dyslexic and I've got ADHD, and I didn't realise that. I didn't find that out till I was 40. I found out I was dyslexic at 24 in my final year of degree, 23. But obviously back then it's really, they talked about structure, and I blatantly got ADHD. They come as a pair. You can get one with the other. Like, I didn't realise OCD is really big with dyslexia or ADHD. There's quite a few different, paired with something else. And so you feel the invisible, and I think creatives do. And when I'm in a classroom now, I feel the panic that these kids are having. I'd have never ever got to uni now in this generation, because what saved me was I could do A-level art and A-level textiles. You're not allowed to now. You've got to pick one. And I was quite naughty at school, but I didn't realise it was easier to be the naughty kid. Well, it was the stupid kid. So I'd rather be the naughty cool kid than be the one that still doesn't know her 8 times tables. I went to a Catholic, I went to a Catholic school. We all knew the Hail Mary and the Our Father, but they didn't give us any help when my parents kept saying, she does keep doing her spellings, we are doing her homework, but there's nothing there at the end of the week. So I really struggled, and I didn't realise till now when I go into a classroom and I see the anxiety has gone huge. And if I hadn't have had art and textiles and been allowed, my art teacher still sends me a Christmas card now,
No
25
way.
years on, and she's dead strict and she hates naughty kids, but for me, she saw something in me.
Really?
Yeah.
Became sort of a mentor to you?
Yeah.
Wow.
And so now I always make sure with any kids I've bonded with, like, that I stay in touch with them, because that's huge, isn't it? And she tells all the other kids, she invited me to come back to school to talk to them. And you just don't realise the power of the kind of normal, mundane people you meet at school.
There are incredible people in your timeline that you don't understand the power of until very much later down your line. And some of those people I reflect on and I've not seen again, but I'd love to meet in the street and just say thank you. You don't know how important that moment was for me.
Yeah. Well, here's an exercise for you. If you're struggling mentally, or you can't find kind of light at the moment, because we all go through that, we're human, aren't we? And it takes work. We've got to do it for ourselves every day. Sit down with a pen and paper, and you have to really dig deep for this exercise. 50 people that have affected your life in a good way, and it can be.
I'm going to do this, I promise
you. So good, and you have to.
I'm
going to
send
deep.
it you later.
Yeah, please do. And it will be your friend's dad that day, or some people it's just that one sentence or that one fleeting kind of exchange, but they will have changed your life. 50 people's a lot. You've got to dig deep for 50.
And digging deep into that, you remember why it was so important to you and how it was so reflective. Because even you saying that then, I went straight back to the first day that I was going travelling for a year, and I went on the aeroplane, and just by accident, or I don't believe in accidents, but this really old, ancient, wisdomful man I ended up sitting with all the way to Australia.
Of course you did.
And there was so much in there, and he was really explaining to me, Mikey, while you're travelling, I was only 17, 18 as well, and he's just explaining, use your senses, really be mindful now, my friends. You need to think about when you're in a restaurant, taste that food, but you'll remember that food for life then, and take you back to that moment. And he was being so open on this travel. He was excited for me because he was approaching the end of his life, and he's seeing somebody sort of building theirs and working it all out. And, you know, I'd not thought of him for a long time, but you just saying that, he was the first that shot in my head.
That's
and I've just
wonderful.
gone, oh my, and that makes you grateful and gratitude now to think, if I'm, say, slipping and I've lost a bit of that character of myself, the mindfulness, remember how he made you feel and pin back to that and go back in that place. So that exercise will be very important for people to be able to think back to some people.
And we have to remember our cup can't just be full all the time. We've got to keep topping it up ourselves. It's no one else's job. So we have to dig deep into, what is it I'm missing right now? And meaningful conversations, like you said. And just think, when you see young kids, because you were a kid, on a plane, you will want to do the same for them.
Yes,
because
yeah.
you'd be so excited for them. But yeah, those exercises are really important. But gratefulness. So when you do slip, because we all have dark days, the quickest way to get back into a good headspace is being grateful. Do you know it's physically impossible for your brain to be grateful and be negative at the same time?
Yes.
And it's just the quickest exercise, isn't it? And I do it with my kids now. In bedtime, 5 things we're grateful for. And it's just quite a quick...
Where was it you heard that, of finding gratitude?
I've read a lot of books. So when I did have my breakdown when I was 27, there's something about being 27, isn't there?
I just hit it, so...
Oh, right, sorry.
Here we go.
No, it is. You're a lot more switched on. I took a job that I wasn't ready for. I'd never heard of imposter syndrome. And I was a design manager, and I didn't feel ready for it, for M&S. They all kept saying I was capable, but I didn't feel capable. I think I needed to design a bit longer first, and I came back from backpacking, and they were like, come back, we love what you do, and it was great, and I should be really grateful. But after reading about it now, I don't know if it's from being working class or being a woman, but I felt like I was a fraud and I was going to be found out, and I felt like a fake. And I didn't realise now, maybe because we are all talking about it more and we're learning and we're a bit more humble, or we've become more American. I like that though. I didn't used to, but now I realise, like, I think I am. My real granddad, I'm adopted. I've got it all, guys.
We're going to go there, honestly.
It's from New York, and so I must have an American street. Obviously I have. But there's just something about us always at that time feeling like a fraud. It was very perfection. Now we can be a bit messy and a bit humble, and I don't know if that's social media. There's just something wonderful about the time now that we can talk about depression, we can talk about our struggles. But back then it was, no, we're perfect, and you know, and it was so dangerous, so damaging.
I completely agree. I mean, we said a word before the podcast, and it was that nuance element, and bringing in the grey of life, or the both sides, not speaking in absolutes, and allowing balance. Because I completely agree with you. I sometimes think as well, though, that over stimulating it, and it can perpetuate it. If you only talk mental health side of things, you go down that path and you become sort of maybe the victim mentality to some degree. But I think it's definitely more acceptable now and approachable to try and conquer your mental health and battle it and understand everyone's got mental health. It's same with brushing your teeth, same with physical activity. You always need to be working on your mind and how you can stimulate that and better it, and understand there's always going to be, from past and how family were raised, knock-on effects and byproducts, and we should always be wanting to be the best version of ourselves. So I love that is now a big emphasis into society. I've just seen in some young people, it has been such a focus that they've become a product of it, if that makes sense.
So for me, it's about, like you said, ownership. It's no one else's job. And when I talk about my family, there's no blame. It's just what happened, and I love them all dearly, and people are just human. And I think a lot of people grow up blaming their family, blaming their parents, blah blah blah, till they are a parent and they realise people just doing the best they can. Always.
That's such a good attitude.
But it's true, and when we see people as human, it knocks down barriers and it takes ownership on me. If I'm having a bad day, it's my job to sort it out. And like you've just said, I call it gardening. If we don't garden every day, the weeds show up. If I don't listen to the music, work out. We're both big on working out, aren't we? Eat the right food. I didn't drink water the last few days, and I've just been a bit mardy. I just need to drink some more water. But I can laugh about it now because it's like ridiculous. But it's, putting that ownership on yourself. No blame mentality. I mean, of course, there's awful things happen to people. But, we can't control what happens to us, but we can control how we react. And then that gives you a power, doesn't it?
Yeah, it really does. You feel like a very strong empath. You exude this wisdom. Can we go into young Emma?
Yes.
Because I really do feel, for the people I connect strongest with, where I feel very strongly connected with you, and there's sort of a feeling of no inside, that you must have had turbulent, tenacious, wild experience as a young person to be able to build up this strong mindset that you've built up to. So can you give me a bit of your timeline and take me on that journey, and then where this wonderful person come from?
Yeah. I was the ugly fat kid as a teenager.
We're in it together.
So,
High
when
fives.
you've got that, you've got to work on your personality.
Yeah.
Luckily, the cool kids always liked me because, like I said, I was naughty and a bit gobby. But all my mates were the beautiful page 3, works for Ram FM girls, all of them. So I was the funny fat kid that all the blokes got on with. So I was Sharpie, the lad.
Sharpie, was that your nickname?
My maiden name's Sharpie. So it was like, we're just going out with the lads. Sharpie, are you coming?
We would have been such good friends.
Yeah. So, but I didn't realise that I didn't fit in. So they were wonderful girls, but they were what you call townies. And I was the I should have been down the Blue Note and with the skaters and stuff. But the school I went to, there just wasn't that. And you don't realise that you're in your environment. My parents, I'm adopted, and my parents were older, like quite old-fashioned, meaning, so my mum's like 75 now. So I don't know, I didn't ever feel cool or like I fit, I didn't have like computers when everyone had them, and I was just always trying to fit in. But my parents were wonderful. I love them dearly. These are my adopted parents. So
Am I okay to interject in
yes.
a little bit? I won't keep interjecting, but that's something I'm very unfamiliar to, is adoption and people that have been adopted. So did your biological parents, you never met them?
Well, we write letters now. When I was 30, there was a thing where I decided to. My dad... my mum and dad and my adopted mum and dad, I was only 6 weeks old when I was adopted.
Right, okay.
Which can't happen now, unfortunately. There's much red tape, and it's now when they're 18 months or a year, so for me, the bonding was there straight away. I don't know what's right or wrong. I'm not an expert. I can't
feels
comment.
Quite a vital part of the development, 0 to 6 months.
Yeah.
But I suppose, again, the nuance of red tape, I understand if there's been things happen in the past where they've needed to add red tape, then fair enough. But it does feel, when you said it, and my heart's saying, oh, it's a shame they can't be there at 0 to 6 months.
Well, you're a dad,
Yeah, that's why I'm reflecting, going, oh, if I couldn't have been there for them that period of time, I can't imagine how we'd be now. Do you know what I mean? She's so loving and trusting, but I've felt that has been such a process along the way of why she's such a good-spirited young person, 1-year-old.
Well, there's things like we've spoke about before, language, and the same when I talked about Africa, it's touch. And that's why they do the skin to skin with when the baby's born. There's smell and touch with animals, and there's music and cuddles, and there's been loads of experiments with monkeys and kind of when they were left to cry. It's not just about... There's the bonding of...
God, I hate that experiment.
Horrendous. But do you see what I mean? It's not something that I just talk about flippantly. But yeah, I'm really lucky. So my mum and dad bought a book. It was never hidden. It was, you're more special than any other kid because we chose you. You weren't an accident. So I always felt really special. And I've got a brother. We've not got the same mum and dad. He's adopted, but I went to go and choose him. And he's 5 years younger. And we've just had a really happy, loved family. And then before... skip to when I was 24. My dad picked me up from a university trip and we had a conversation in the car. This is why these conversations, like you said, about just passing, fleeting moments can change the rest of your life. My dad said in the car, picked me up from Manchester Airport, have you ever thought about contacting your parents, real birth? And I was like, no, because apparently it's really common for women especially to want to protect their adopted family. Secretly, when I got drunk, I'd be on the yellow pages looking for my surname, but I wouldn't want to look like I wasn't being loyal to my parents. Apparently it's really common. My brother went to find out straight away, but there's something about girls apparently. And he said, oh, I would if it was up to me. Don't you ever fancy it? And then he died a few years later, but I always knew that he'd be okay with it. There was just, I don't know what that was. It was almost like permission slip. And I probably would have gone looking anyway, but I'd have always felt that I was being disloyal. And yeah, we've not met each other yet, but we've written to each other, and she was a lovely woman, and I really pity her. She was Catholic. And it was always written that she couldn't have children out of wedlock, and this wonderful young lady, and she gave up 2 for adoption. So I've got an older brother who lived in Leeds, who is 5 years older, and we've got such similar paths. Get this, his mum and dad, adopted mum and dad, got married the same day as my mum and dad.
No.
It's like something off a film, and they're he's got a sister called Emma who lived in Rodley in Leeds where I live, this little canal
I'm not having it.
village. It's unbelievable, honestly. When I tell my friends, they're like, this is like some film.
Oh, wow,
yeah,
Emma.
he works for a paper company. So when I worked for Hallmark designing an M&S, his paper company used to go in the same building in Saltaire in Leeds. I'd never even heard of it in Derby. And they deal with the same trade. And he's a wonderful human, and his sisters and his family. But the same day, the same year, his parents got married. The same day as my parents, thinking they're going to adopt this brother and sister from this. I mean, it's just
in a spiritual language or term. How do you interpret that?
I think it's wonderful. I've only got love for it now, but maybe because I am blessed with such. Everything was explained to me. I always felt wanted and loved. And now, when I look back at these humans, all part of the story, our birth mum, I pity her because she's missed out on. They're all just wonderful people, and we're really lucky. You grow up thinking, oh, my parents in prison, were they? You don't know what the story is.
So you don't hold any animosity towards anybody.
I just pity that she's missed out on a lot, because she had some other children, and she had she got with somebody horrible after that treated her badly because of shame. And I've read a lot on shame, and humans carry so much shame.
For you to be able to channel that in a compassionate part of your nature must set you free completely.
Yeah, it does. I think it's where the power is. Not that I'm after power, but it's
no
it's
hatred,
healed me.
no anger, no shame in your life. You've just managed to go, do you know what? Everybody's been on their story, their journey. They've done their best, but I wasn't in that time. I don't know what decisions they had to make in that moment. And to be able to be loving, kind and compassionate towards that is such a big attitude, and gives credit to who you are now, and is a part of why you are now. Because you see people late on in life still holding on to something, this hot piece of coal that they won't let go of, and it's like, look down, it's only burning your hand. That's all it's doing to you now. You've got to let go at some point, and you managed to do that very early on, so credit to you.
Thanks. I am blessed. She was the youngest of 5 big Irish builders. They came over because of the IRA, and quite a lot of Irish went to Bradford, and they built, like I say, builders, so they get brick jobs, and there used to be signs all over Derby as well, no blacks, no Irish, no dogs. Yeah, in the 70s. So they
doesn't shock me, but it should.
exactly. Our mutual friend Emeka, he used to say the same, like that they were the signs everywhere. But she's the youngest of 5, so she got made to adopt. It wasn't her choice, and they were all very kind of Catholic, and it was almost like, when you read about it, it wasn't like the 70s, it's like reading like 1940s. But Ireland is quite well, not the whole of Ireland, but Catholic families are quite old-fashioned and stuck.
Let's say backwards.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's go.
Yeah, but from the more I learnt about it, the more it was her mum just wore the trousers, and it was all how you look in church. And it's the same with a lot of religions, isn't it? Nothing against people's religion, but it's the humans. It's the kind of the hierarchy,
When it's
the
been
hypocrites,
misinterpreted.
Yeah, it's not the religion; it's the church that humans kind of
people behind
bend
it.
the rules.
Yeah, I've got the golden rule on my arm with all the religious symbols. But again, that's the one rule that leads the rules of treat others as you wish to be treated.
Yeah.
And, you know, if we can take them sort of messages away from religion and say, well, there's a lot of beauty that it's added in, but it's when people go, they're turning it into something for their gain. I suppose a lot of men really throughout time.
Absolutely.
7 wives. Yeah, that makes sense. Hang on a minute. I think you've just read that wrong. I don't want to get in no trouble at the minute.
No,
but
I know.
Come on, I'll have you. It's a really fascinating part of your life, that and the development of who you become, because I've never really met anybody that's been adopted before.
Oh, right.
Genuinely, but I've got a friend who's a new friend I've met at the gym, and he's coming and helping on the buses at the minute, and he works in a care home, and again, such a wonderful character, and I've just got a real passion for young people at the minute, be it becoming a dad, working with kids on the Mondays and going into schools, and I'm empathic now. I think I've always have been.
Yeah.
I definitely always have been, but just building that understanding of why people act in the ways they're acting, why people are feeling the way they're feeling. If you can gain that knowledge and understand the path you've been on from your own experience, you can actually start accessing them and helping them then by gaining that understanding. People are like that for a reason. I think there's a quote, something about madness. It was in a film and I thought, oh, that's hit me. It was there's always a reason for madness, but there's madness in a reason or something.
Oh, yeah,
and again, it's just understanding that history of somebody. So I'm so happy to hear that you had a loving experience through all that, though, and that's what emanated and built. But was it a tough time for school then, because you were Sharpie, and were you getting bullied?
It got worse. So I was the fat kid with a bowl haircut.
Oh my God.
I mean, what a bitch. I say it to my mum all the time. You wanted a girl all your life, you dressed me like a blooming boy. A bowl haircut, mate.
Fill me up with sweets and chocolate and puddings, and then put me a bowl haircut on top.
Yes, it's been an ongoing joke. Obviously, honestly, it's like, how horrendous.
Yeah.
Like, she dressed me like the 70s. And then it got a bit better later on in high school. Obviously, I wore long hair, and I think that's why I got a little bit gobby and a bit naughty. But my dad, he was a buyer, but he really creative. Basically, when he left school, apparently he got offered 3 jobs the minute he left school. Jobs were plentiful. He wanted to be a carpenter, go to college. He was from Chad, from a council house. Grew up working class, but his parents they were from farms. His parents worked for Rolls Royce and stuff, but where he grew up on that street, his mates were all working class and went to a rough school in Chad. And he wanted to be a carpenter, but that apprenticeship had been taken, so he thought, I'll just be a buyer for this year, and next year I'll go and be a carpenter. Never happens, does it? Well, it didn't for him. He met my mum and they got saved to get a house, and he ended up in this path being a buyer. Hated it. Never did any overtime. Would just do the bare minimum because it wasn't his passion. Spent all his time at home making things, building, making things beautifully. Like, he did our whole kitchen. He made beautiful, gorgeous things. And then he got made redundant when we were a teenager from a job he didn't even want. So then I end up on free dinners, going into charity shops. My mum was a dinner lady because she wanted to be at home because she'd spent all this time wanting a family. She wanted to be there for the family. But because my dad was a bit older, at 50, if you lose your job, they're not going to employ you. So it was quite a I didn't realise how much that would affect the rest of my life, meaning I'm not the richest person. My friends are on mega bucks, but I'm doing what I love, and they spend all their money, not all my friends, guys, I love you all, certain few, spend all their money trying to forget how miserable they are in their big job. They're getting fat, drinking loads, going on big holidays to kind of compensate from the fact that they're empty inside because they're not doing what they love and they're following the money. And so for my dad, if he'd have just followed his path, because he ended up, this sounds so depressing, he got cancer. And I'm sure it's from not listening to his self. And he was, like I say, when he died, the stuff that we've got around the house that he made, beautiful stuff. And instead he took this path being a buyer that he lost his job anyway. And we ended up, you know, he kept his house and everything. Luckily, that's why. So I learnt that off him. But I also learnt that he got up and got in his suit and went down the job club every day and sent off letters after letters. He would not be a victim. He grafted to get a second job, and he wasn't too humble. He ended up being a caretaker at a school because he wanted to show us that no matter what, you get up, you get dressed, and you take that job, and you're not too proud. So I learnt that from him, which is wonderful. He told my mum not to leave her job because you could get more, I think, on benefits. And he was like, no, you go back, you carry on being a dinner lady. We're setting these kids up and we're showing them that we keep trying. And I just think that's wonderful. So I learnt that ethos. You graft and you graft. I mean, to be honest, it's too much at the moment. I've got to learn to chill out because I work too hard.
Yeah.
But I don't know if that's a working class thing, but the lessons I learned in that 5 years as a teenager, you just don't realise how huge they are.
So did you never go down the path and make the mistakes of getting something you didn't like, or did you just literally learn that lesson and implement it in your life? So have you been in a factory or anything?
Oh yeah, I did it all.
So
yeah.
you've tasted it as well.
Yeah.
You've not only heard about what it can do to you and experienced that in your life, but you've gone, I'll give it a go.
Yeah.
Oh, this really isn't for me now.
Yeah.
This isn't what I want to be doing.
Yeah.
So amazing to be able to pick up that as a lesson, isn't it?
Yeah.
I did Thornton's.
I did a
2 weeks.
Yeah. I did a packing one. You know where they pick you up on Normanton Road on a bus?
Yeah,
and they take you. Yeah, it was awful. The cuts on my hands just from packing boxes. It was awful.
Mine is poetically, I end up crying into a box of chocolates.
I love that.
Remember it?
And we were all told, is it true that Thornton's you can eat the chocolate?
Oh yeah, because they try and put you off. Apparently.
Right.
Do you know? If you overdo it in your first week, you don't want chocolate ever again. So just like, take it. And the smell, oh man, it's, not good. It was this guy, the manager. And again, I'd never been in a big factory before. I'd either worked on the farm, that wasn't quite for me, a small independent cafe in Belper, Ice Your Cocoa, and then just needed money because I wanted to go away.
Yeah.
So Thornton's, but it just turned you into a robot, so obsolete, nothing individuality, nothing about my personality. It's just go over there, do that job. So me on my aisle, I'm dancing, I'm singing, I'm playing, being a bit daft. And the boss came over and went, "Oi, what the you think you're doing?" And I was going, packing chocolate, because I was doing the job though. I wasn't doing it
you
wrong.
look too happy, mate.
And he screamed at me. And then, so I started talking to people on my aisle. And he was really watching in on me. And I remember he came back over and said, "Right, come here." And he put me with people that couldn't speak my language in the corner of a room, just putting the labels on. And I remember I had a fit. I just started crying, thinking, is this my existence now?
Yeah.
I just threw everything and said, "Your job, I'm gone."
That's how
But
I left.
It was a big moment.
Like too much.
Really?
Can't breathe. It felt suffocating, didn't it?
I don't understand or know if it is possible. I'd like to speak to more people on that merit, but to find happiness within that realm when it's your majority part of your day, 13 hours, 12-hour shifts, doing something where you're not allowed to bring anything that's you to the table, You have just turned a person into a robot completely then. That's the thing that separates us, isn't it? Your character, your playfulness, your silliness. And now you're not allowed to incorporate that into the job role.
Well, going off on a tangent, because this is me, I think that's why, which is a good thing, the Black Lives Matter thing happened last summer, because everyone, you've got to remember I've got a lot of black friends in different nationalities. You know, in London especially, or New York, they've got 2-3 jobs. They're normally getting up at 4, going to their cleaning job before another job. They haven't got time to sit and think of injustice or all of these. And then with lockdown, all of a sudden everyone's like, actually, this is not fair. I've been on a million, I'm out of the house for 20 hours a day or whatever. And that's a good thing that they had time, you know, some extra. It's just not, I can't put the words into it. But it was something that I thought sort of straight away. Actually,
the pandemic, isn't it?
Yeah.
Corona.
People have got time to, not time in a good way, but it was, everyone's a factory line, on a factory line, exactly what you said.
And a lot, like you say, in that story of yours, people lost their jobs, many people, and they thought, hang on a minute, that was doing something I despised, waking up at 6 a.m, 5 a.m, going to trudge through a day that I don't actually want to be a part of.
Yeah.
And they had that moment thinking, well, I've just lost that. The world's very malleable. Anything can happen at any moment. So I'm of total agreement again. It's the big shake-up that people needed. I just hope that they've managed to channel it and put it in that right direction of, well, who am I? What is my passion? Why do I want to get up and feel good in the days? But not why, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But that's what I want for myself. How can I achieve that? And that's by pursuing passions, finding purposes in your life, meaningful tasks, rather than just being told to pack boxes. Oh. So let's we'll dive in then to a bit of the travelling days. When did that come about?
So I went to university, did my art degree, lived in Leeds, loved it, and then I kept saying I want to go travelling. And the girl I went to uni with, she got a boyfriend and didn't dare tell me she didn't want to go travelling. You know when people do that, like you hear off another friend, what, she don't want to go?
Oh, so she built it up.
But but then another friend that I worked with had said, "Oh, I'm going travelling in 6 months' time. If you want to meet me for a few bits of it, I'm going to." And she was going to South America, Africa. Where else did we go? Japan, China. She was going to all these places that I'd only ever been to Europe. And she was like, oh, "I'm going to all these places. You can come to a few if you want." And I looked at the bloke I was seeing at the time. It was over.
Really?
I was like, can I come to all of it?
Why was it over with him?
It was just, we should have split up like 5 years before. We just ended up being mates. Yeah, exactly. It was that thing of weirdly, he's from Derby and he's got kids at the same school as his wife's lovely, and we just grew apart and we ended up just being friends. He's a lovely bloke, but it's just an ongoing joke that I was like, yeah, I'm going to. Taxi.
Respect.
No, he's a great lad. So I went backpacking, terrified, and just, I know it's so cheesy, but found myself.
I love this. Oh, mate, let's talk about the finding yourself process.
Oh.
You were 24, you say?
25.
25. Just finished uni.
Just finished.
Had a good experience at uni?
Yeah, I spent longer at uni because I did an art foundation I did A-levels at sixth form, Catholic school, like I've said to you, but because of the teacher, and I loved it and I didn't dare go anywhere. But then I thought, actually, I'm not set up for university. So I got advised to do an art foundation at college in Derby. And I'm so pleased I did, but all my mates had gone to uni then. So I felt a bit left behind. And then I did a 4-year degree because you got a year work placement. So I think that's the thing about my parents. Because of what they'd been through, I wasn't going to get a degree in just doing anything. I needed to have a job. And I think because of that background, because I put myself through uni, my parents couldn't, I made sure that I did play hard, but I blooming worked hard, you know. And to my now, it probably caused the burnout and really. I probably worked too hard, so there's lessons in that too, because I just used to work my ass off. And another thing about ADHD, I didn't realise I used to work through the night, and now looking back, I think it's because there was no distractions. I think you find
That's
ways.
how I work, operate through the night.
Because in the day I'm online, I'm answering things, and I've realised that I've only just realised that, and I get loads done through the night, but it's because I get into the zone.
Yeah.
And I can't in the day. There's too much noise.
I feel very similarly. Also, I like the fact, I don't know if this is competitive in me, but I feel, people are sleeping, so if I'm working through this, I'm up and I'm on it. That was a part of my nature at one stage, but then I just adapted to that. I thought, I'm actually enjoying it, so I'm sure there's a magnitude of reasons why I like going through the night, but when I'm editing, if I start at 7 or 8 to do a music video or something, I'll be 8 in the morning. Chris is just getting up for work at, say, 6, and I think, are you up already?
Yeah.
It's in that flow state, isn't it? When you're just
zone.
away. Oh, okay. Best go to bed or something.
I think you're freer though. I'm braver in the night as well with my choices. Whereas I'm with my art, with my design choices, there's just something about the way I work through the night is different to the day.
Mystical, isn't it? The night time.
But then a lot of creatives do work through the night, don't they?
100%. So
Sorry,
this is
tangent.
I love us. will you please be our mate on this bus? I want you down here way
Mate,
more
you
often.
ain't getting rid of me now.
You're so much fun, and our minds are so similar.
Yeah.
They really do travel all over, and that's why I got into podcasts. I never wanted this big structure. This is where we're going. This is what we're going to talk about. I've been on podcasts where it's been that sort of the Q&A thing, and it doesn't speak to my soul the way that random conversation, tangent here, tangent there, lose yourself, find yourself. That feels fun to me. Proper chat at a pub.
Yeah, well, that's what podcasts should be. Other than that, it's just an interview in a magazine, isn't it? Q&A.
Too structured, too contrived. Yeah, saturated. So, to your travelling now. 25-year-old. I just want to say, you say you enjoyed uni. It was a good experience for you.
Yeah, it was for me.
So would you'd advise, say if you had a 25-year-old, do you have a 25-year-old?
No, an 8-year-old and a 4-year-old. For me, I'd have not done as well if I'd have gone to uni just in Derby and stayed at my mum and dad's.
Right, I get
There was something about me, like I said, my friends were amazing, but we weren't alike. They were mates from school. We don't have that in common. So when I see my old mates that I grew up with, they're family to me, and that bond's never going to go. But I'm Sharpie the hippie, and they're I call them the grown-ups. You know,
I can picture it.
Do you see they wore suits and had cars when I just wasn't even. I kept failing. I kept not turning up to my driving lessons because I wanted the money to go to a rave.
Oh my life, you're wild.
but I was really good. What rave?
To uni? No, a bit both. Probably same place.
Yeah,
but
Huddersfield. Weirdly, so even though I've got that streak, I am really into working hard, and it was the best degree. I know your other half did textiles. For textiles, Huddersfield's really big because of the factories and the mills, but then we'd party in Leeds.
Right.
But I really liked so my brother took the rip out of me when I was like, I'm going to the big lights of university, I'm off, I'm too big for this place. And then we got off the M1 and we were like in Emmerdale Farm. And my brother was like, oh great, fill your boots, Emma. This tiny little Huddersfield town. And he just kept singing Last of the Summer Wine in Emmerdale Farm. But of course, it was good for me because the people there were all art and textiles, and then we'd go to Leeds anyway. Whereas if I'd have gone to I got in at Manchester and I got in at London, I'd have quit. I'd have ended up partying too much. So it was good for me to have that world I needed.
Yeah. But
not the wild partying, because I joke to you, but if I went to a rave, I would have worked hard all month.
Yeah.
Like my friends still think I'm wild, but I'd go out 3 times a year. I'll go to festivals, but I make sure that I plan it.
Yeah,
Do you see what I mean? I'm more
The
sensible
aftermath.
than I make out.
Of course, because you know for a fact there's a blowout,
Yeah.
but then the aftermath of that can be quite hard to pick up the pieces
Yeah.
from. So you've got a plan in that, haven't you?
Yeah, I think you have to train the beast.
Maturity. I likes it.
Either that or I know how long I can party for, so I have to make sure there's enough days.
I just wanted to side note that because a lot of my friends, a pattern that I see, the ones that are creative and did go to uni, nearly all of them have a really bad experience with it, saying it sort of stifled their art, repressed a lot of them. But it's nice to hear that you did have a good experience in a creative field.
Yeah.
Because it puts a lot of people off then, hearing the anecdotes of uni did nothing for me, this piece of paper and so on. And honestly, it's just on this podcast, I think you'll be 92 or 93 episode. And the creatives that I've had on, the ones that I went to uni, I'd say nearly 100% were all, I hated it, terrible experience, so I just bounced away from that conversation. But it's nice that you got what you wanted out of it.
Yeah, again, I didn't like the way the degree went in certain places, but you get to control the next step. You get control of the next chapter. Do another project then. No one's stopping you. No one's stopping you developing. Ever.
Yeah.
Do a nighttime project. Contact some bands and do them a CD cover. Like, you get to carry on. And don't get me wrong, there was loads of my degree that I didn't want to do, but I also know we have to learn that.
Yeah.
That's what learning any trade's about, isn't it? The art side is you. There's only one of you that can, and nobody knows how that's going to show up, but they've got to teach you something. So yeah.
I just feel, I mean, this is just matured Mikey now that's been through a journey, but from school you sort of passively just go in, taking in information, and because all your mates have gone on to college and then uni, you follow trend, and then you sort of maybe passively allow that to become a bad situation. But I wouldn't now, in any part of my life, if I'd have been at uni now or get a job now or wherever I end up, allow that to become a bad happening. Do you know what I mean? If it was in uni and I've got the mindset I've got now and I wasn't enjoying the course, I'd do everything within my power and my ability to change my experience there. And that's what I felt hearing them, because I didn't. I just went from school asking to leave to farm to travel, and I just I just wanted to stop being told what to do, to be honest.
But your path's amazing.
but that was just it. So hearing a lot of my friends explain their experiences from there, it just sat with me going, well, why didn't you go and find something other and make it into your experience rather than, oh, uni was rubbish. That to me is going, I allowed uni to be a rubbish experience and just passive.
And actually, it's not till you said that is what I did actually. The degree was surface pattern because I couldn't decide if I wanted to get into fashion or homeware. So surface pattern. You can do, so 1 minute I'm doing bedding, the next minute I'm doing wrapping paper or fashion. And I remember my tutor I did an 80s fashion thing. Well, I designed club, because obviously I was into clubbing.
Wow.
It was the 90s, mate, Gatecrasher.
Yes.
I designed stuff for Boy George, and I got to meet him on a night.
Wow.
He was DJing, and I got photos with him because he was my final project. Because come on, if you're gonna design for somebody, I mean, I wasn't gonna get Bowie, was I? So I got Boy George, but my surface pattern lecturer was like, well, why aren't you doing bedding for M&S or Asda? And I was like, well, I'm never gonna get to do these kind of projects.
Yeah.
If you're going to do something wild, you do it in your degree. And I remember her saying, 80s and gold is never going to come back. And of course, now all of us look like we've been in some sort of 80s Dallas
time machine.
But I was told and I could have easily have listened to her and gone down a different path. But I just thought, no, I'm at uni being a student. So I suppose it depends kind of who you're listening to. And for me, I just knew I was never going to get another time to do that. But then maybe because I did a work placement, So I got to go into a company and I realised how boring my future was going to be.
Yeah.
So when I went back for my final year, I knew, well, I may as well have fun.
Yeah, go wild,
Yeah,
let it all out.
yeah.
That's a good attitude. And I think just for the merit of the person that you are, you thought, you know what, I'm just going to unapologetically, authentically do me in this moment. And I think a lot of people really don't understand the power that they possess.
Absolutely.
And it's your reality to create. Don't allow it to become that. If a young person was hearing this now, it's just, if you're in a bad part of your life, experience, you're at uni, you're at a job you hate, that when there's nowhere else to go in your mind, there's everywhere else to go. That's a really important thing to hold, isn't it?
So true. It's where the true power is. You get to control your next step.
You're the conductor.
Yeah, always. And you know, we said earlier, your pain is your message. Your mess is your message. And for me, I don't think I could be this person without the darkness and without the struggle. And, you know, I used to fail exams all the time, and mum and dad used to get me a tutor, and my brain was like a sieve. Literally, I'd hold on. So when I went backpacking, I'd know a bit of Spanish. Ask me a month later, gone, completely gone. But yeah, now I laugh about it. And I think as well, you've got a great personality. Maybe it is from being bullied and struggling at school, because you've got to rely on your personality, haven't you? With 100. A bowl haircut.
Honestly, well, I didn't want to interject in because your story is going so well, but I was a big kid, but I had a bowl haircut. I really did. I was connected on that. I'll get some photos after.
Yeah, we'll swap.
My mum used to get the horse shears out, and after she'd done all the horses for the day, bop and just go round, and that was it. I really remembered that, so I was just smiling nostalgically, going, we would have been such funny friends walking around. So at least we would have been together, though.
True. My son, he's got blonde hair, and I went for the surfer look, but his dad cut his hair through the summer, and somebody said he looked like a Lego man. I was so traumatized.
That's actually quite funny. I love people that do the best observational humour.
And he's only 4, so it just went over like, he was like, oh, cool.
Yeah. Love Lego. Maybe that's the picture he took in. His
yeah, but
Lego
the trouble
people.
is, I'm so nervous now. I've taken him to hairdressers. I'm like, oh, you're going to mess up my son's hair.
Yeah.
It's a big deal, though, isn't it?
Yeah.
When
definitely.
You're growing up and you're like, oh man, could you do anything worse for me?
When I eventually did get a good haircut, they'll allow me to go to the hairdressers. We didn't need to save so much money scrimping out. Gareth Gates had just come in at the time.
Brilliant.
So he had them crazy spikes, and I think I rocked that out for a good
I can see you doing that.
3-4 years, Gareth Gates style-y. Yeah, he pioneered something. I've never seen that done before.
No.
Old school. Come on, Emma. Go there. Where was the first drop off? Where did you end up? Got on the flight. You're flying out.
Oh.
Where'd you land?
Buenos Aires, Argentina.
Yeah, I wasn't expecting that.
I know, I'd do it big. Exactly.
Australia.
No, I wanted to go to Australia, but the thing is, the girl I went with was 5 years older than me, so she was 30. That's a big. I know that doesn't sound much, but a 30-year-old when he's 25. Yeah. She'd already done Australia. Well, my best mate was emigrating to Australia with a husband. They met at school. So, of course, I was always going to go, not realising you never go because you've never got any money when you get back, and then you have kids. I am going next year, by the way. But so we left out Australia because the places it was her trip and I was joining her. I can't take the credit that I would have dared gone to these places. So it was Argentina, Brazil, Botswana, down to wrong continent. Argentina, Chile, down to right down to the bottom. Brazil. Yeah. And then Bolivia and Peru. Yeah. Then we flew to Japan, China, Singapore, mate.
I mean, we're an hour in and we've got here.
Africa.
This is great. Okay. World's longest podcast, guys. Strap
in.
Sorry.
No, it was awesome. I don't need to tell you how awesome it was. It was just
I've got to go into a bit, though. That sounds immense. Did you... get that, is there a special flight ticket that you can get?
Well, yeah, so we went through STA Travel. From Japan, get this, I'd not thought this through. You just get the trip. So you go from Brazil. We lost 2 days. We went to Japan that way round the world instead of that way. I didn't know there was a left or right, wrong way. You just trust the airlines. So we lost a day in the timeline, and the journey was 27-hour flight. It was the weirdest thing. And then you turn up in Japan. It was like, have you ever seen Lost in Translation?
No, is it a film?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's awesome, but it shows you kind of, you just don't, so you've got jet lag, you've lost 2 days, and you can barely breathe because you're in Japan, and it doesn't go dark because of the lights. It was weird, and I felt so spaced out, but amazing. You can't work anything out because all the signs for the toilet or anything. So I had this point-it book that you'd point like a picture of a banana or...
It's quite clever though.
Yeah, but it was awesome. We were only in Japan for 2 weeks, and then it was China.
I've just seen
and
now
down
there's
to Singapore and Vietnam.
in-ear translators.
Oh,
Have you seen that?
No.
It's crazy. You can literally have a fluent conversation with somebody, and it's being interpreted to you and translated. That's crazy. From pointing at a book to hello, how you doing? It's
gosh. Well, a lot of Japanese, even though they can understand English, wouldn't speak to you because they're really shy and modest. So you'd be like,
not because they hated you.
No, yeah. Well, probably.
A little bit of both.
A little bit. But yeah, it was awesome. The come down after travelling, though, was awful.
Were you away for a year?
A year, and then when I got back, I think that part of the imposter syndrome, I don't know, I just really struggled getting back into life because how do you get back to...
Was it all hostel living as well then?
Yeah.
So you're out there in hostels, new people, but you started in South America. Was that told to you beforehand, sort of no? Was anybody saying
don't go
danger?
there, it's so dangerous?
And did you have any of those moments?
I was scared about Brazil, but had the best time. I was so we didn't obviously for Brazil we didn't go to the cash point. We always made sure we were together, didn't carry any stuff with us, like passport and everything. My brother went about 5 years later on his own, and then told everyone he got his trainers nicked and he got robbed, but he'd walk around with his passport.
Yeah.
Of course.
It's like what you just said then. I love people that actually listen to others and take on a bit of notice.
Yeah.
I mean, South Africa, when I was there, a friend, Maria, really 5'1", but real strong character, but she just didn't want to take into account what people were saying. It's right, when you go to the shops, wait for us, we'll walk with you. And in her head, I think she was just thinking UK rules apply, so forget you guys, I can go do it. And she was millimeters from being abducted or whatever the hell could have happened next, but so lucky, because basically what happened, I was working in a primate sanctuary, and I'm at work, and we're pretty out the way. We're at Pretoria, but about an hour's drive still from central town. So the shop is about a 10-minute walk, 10-minute back, but on the way there, a car had pulled over to the side of the road, and a guy was dragging her in. But as that was happening, a car had just come past, and it was a bunch of workers out in South Africa, and the farmer, and he'd rammed the car, and the workers jumped out and saved her because they knew what was happening. It was horrible though, because then his driver got away, but the guys had punching my mic. The workers had grabbed the person that was trying to abduct Maria. So they threw him into the back of their van, tied him up in cable ties, blood everywhere, and they drove up to the sanctuary, and it was just me on at the minute. So I'm on my own, and I see this car whizzing up, and I think, right, we're getting killed here, or being a fight at least. And then I see Maria coming out of the car, crying her eyes out, scuffed up, and what's happening? And then the guy in the back, all tied up, and they're saying, right, we're going to go and kill this guy now. I'm going, no, we can't kill somebody. This is true story. And I ran round the back where everyone else is working in the fields and stuff, and I go, guys, come in here. Everyone runs round, and we end up having to plead with the farmer to not kill this man. We'll take him to the police station. And eventually he says, okay, right, you go do with him what you will. But he knew that he'd just be let off in a second. So got there, the guy ends up paying and gets out. And my ex-partner at the time, Maria, and another friend that she'd gone with, they were getting questioned for about 5 hours just in the police station, stuck there. And the guy that was going to abduct her or do whatever he was going to do was gone after 20 minutes. So I understand why corruptness happens, and then why the vigilantes and so on. So, but that was just somebody not doing what people had said around there. So there's rules, isn't there, when you go out travelling for a reason, and you've got to just know that you're not more knowledgeable and knowing than them certain things to go by.
I got tears. What do you call it? Tear sprayed.
Yeah, that's
in Bolivia.
Tear spray. Yeah, but by the police, I think so. Yeah,
because there was loads and loads of protesting, and there was loads of kind of upheaval with, because you find in a lot of these countries there's always some political something going off, and you wouldn't know at the time. Like when we went to South Africa, we couldn't get to Zimbabwe because Mugabe, all the money was worthless in Zimbabwe, but it just changes so much. And like you say, you just realise another thing is when you go on any tour, it's not like the UK. You're like literally on this little bus looking down cliffs like this, aren't you? Because it's just, you've just got to go with it, haven't you? I think there's something about just surrendering when you go backpacking and just going, what will be, will be. Because
is some of your best advice is to take advice then. Listen to people, make it your own experience, have as much fun as you can possibly carve out, but do listen to people when they know the areas.
Well, the girl I went with is the same height as me. I'm 5'2". We got spat at in India. And we, because I smoked at the time. I mean, I always made sure I covered my skin. We were very respectful, but to be spat at, because you got to remember in India, you're practically a prostitute to be travelling on your own. You travel, I mean, I work in schools in Derby that are massively, Eastern European or Asian, and it's just their tradition that you do not go into town on your own. You go with 5 other girls, and that's just their way. So to see me and my friend, I've not the mic now, see me and my mate knocking up it, just as we are, we just look too free and too light years ahead of their society. You've got to remember, a lot of countries, women still don't drive.
Wild, isn't it?
Yeah, and we have to respect that, don't we? We're in their world.
Yeah, 100%. Because I know travellers that have gone to those areas and tried to change it as well. You're fighting an uphill battle there, going into another culture and trying to implement your ethos, your beliefs, your culture into it. It's impossible. Yeah.
Oh, I forgot to just before we move on, the major fact is when I went backpacking, tsunami had just happened.
Wow.
So that's how long ago it was. Tsunami had happened. We were booked to go in April. Tsunami had happened on Boxing Day. So when we went to Thailand, we were doing the cleanups on the beach. Because you could just go, if you were there for a week, you could clean up for a week or 2 weeks. But it was so humbling to see, obviously, how horrendous it was. But you needed injections just to be on the beach because it was the disease. I mean, you can imagine you couldn't eat any fish or anything for years. And it worried me how, like, a year later, everyone was like, yeah, we're back to normal. Really? Everyone's eating fish again. Like, did you not see the cars and the hotels? And that was horrendous. But it was very scary. Bird flu was around. Tsunami had happened, and I'm waving to my mum and dad with this other 5'2" woman going, See ya.
Oh, mate.
No iPhone, and I sound so old, but no internet. No, well, there was internet, but no Facebook or anything. You couldn't go, where's the next hostel? We had the Lonely Planet. I love telling this story. It sounds so bloody knobby. In my day. But you know, when you go backpacking, there's this ongoing joke about there's always that person going, well, you want to go to this temple, nobody's there. I call them travel wankers.
I've met a
That's
few
what
of them
I've
in my
turned
time.
into.
Yeah, I've definitely met a few of them.
We call it the crowded planet, where we...
Ew.
But you get that with everyone, don't you? There's always that
Oh, no,
one
my God,
person.
yeah.
Yeah. Let me get my harmonica out.
Have you seen it? In-Betweeners
Yeah,
too?
I would have so fallen for him.
Really?
That
That was
was
who
the
you were
exact
into? Oh,
idiots that I
no.
was into. The dready blonde guy. Who was
Socialism, man. It's the way
Yeah,
forward. It's the only way.
That was me, the trust fund kid. What's your name? Is your name really? It's Edward. I thought it was Willow.
He really grinds on me in that film.
Yeah.
It gets to me
But
because
it's
they
so
exist.
true.
They exist in their millions.
And they always travel alone, and you realise, like, oh, that's why you're alone. I've been travelling for 15 years. Yeah, I'll be travelling another 15.
People can stomach you for the week. They're there. They think you're cool for a bit. You play
Yeah.
guitar, and then they're like, "Be done with you."
Yeah, and I used to fall for them.
So, wow. But you started this segment of the podcast saying that you found yourself really travelling. What was the finding self bit?
The people, and I didn't realise that I always wanted to do kind of Australia and Europe and get a job, but I realised actually that my favourite places were the poor areas, the markets, the energy. So all the places I was terrified of going were my favourite, and I didn't realise how much it was the people and the communities.
Has that left a lasting imprint with you then?
Yeah.
Forevermore, you just thinking...
It's people's stories.
Yeah. My life's full of people and energy and movement and finding happiness in the simple things in that. So that's exactly what it did to me.
Yeah, people.
I think my mum really thought in her mind, oh, I'll send him out there. Didn't send me out, but, you know, give me idea to go. And left me with some pocket money, so go out there. But I did get my own flights and whatnot. But she believed that I'd be seeing people struggling, poverty-stricken place, which I did see.
Yeah.
But genuinely, this is my experience anyway, and for a good few years, the poverty, the poor areas, the getting by on nothing were the happiest places I've ever been in my whole entire life. The bare minimum, 3 hours work a day max, and after that, that was sort of their, well, we've got to do our chores, now we have fun.
Yeah.
What? I thought you guys were supposed to be really unhappy and in terrible, dire straits. What I'm seeing is it's all about wholesome family, cooking, playing,
food.
Enjoyment, and yeah, honestly, that was what I came back with, and my mum was like, oh shit, I thought you want to just get here, work your arse off and go for it. And what I really wanted was for that to not be the majority of my day, and for the majority to be spent in a loving, calm, peaceful, simplistic attitude.
Well, those overnight buses you used to go to in Africa or wherever, there'd be strangers giving you some fruit or some food, and it was just wonderful. You wouldn't take it off some of them because you'd be like... Well,
I know
in
exactly
South
what
America
you're
there
saying.
was some that was like, I think you've got fleas, but it was nice and offer.
No, you have that. That's yours.
Thanks. But yeah, definitely the people, and the energy that they bring and the kindness. And I don't know if you've ever seen. I don't watch telly anymore, but there used to be this thing of millionaires. Their kids would swap lives for a week. BBC do it. And they would swap with, say, obviously working class.
This now.
And the kids from the millionaire families just wanted the other lives because they're like, I don't stay over at friends' houses. I don't see my parents.
Why
you
don't
have
they do
parties
shows like this
at week.
anymore?
I know.
That's
They
actually
said,
really
you guys
true.
have sleepovers. You share bedrooms. We're really lonely. We can't get the bus. We live out in the sticks. My parents send me to after-school clubs, and their lives looked so empty. And yeah, they were going to horse riding and they were doing all amazing activities, but they were on their own,
and the
they wanted
pressure
to
that
be at the
built from that.
park. The mates they'd swap with were down the park with their friends every day or on
Yeah.
the bike. And it's those lessons, isn't it?
Yeah, I
We're
completely
missing
remember.
on communities.
Media on the whole gets a bit of a bad vibe, and
Yeah.
shows like that feel, oh, you shouldn't be watching that, it's going to have a bad
Yeah.
message. But actually, there's some real beauties, but
Yeah.
more in them olden day series that we'd be watching and shows. I'm reflecting to it now because you've proper triggered a beautiful
Yeah.
memory in my mind. But I remember one of them episodes where the poorer, the working class family, were just laughing at this woman because she couldn't wind down, and the kid had to have a conversation with her like, this is the time where we're all together playing games and relaxing. I genuinely remember that episode then, and it struck a chord with me.
Yeah.
I'm gonna make sure I implement that in my family's life more.
Yeah,
Because
this is
like you
it.
say, we're programmed though, me and you, from our youth as well, being built to be very active, hard working. And sometimes I do reflect looking over at Ella and Chrissy and going, I can do that in a minute. I know
Yeah.
I've got time. Don't just neglect it and not
Yeah.
bother. But those big principles we learnt from travelling, that show,
Yeah.
things in life,
Well,
it's good to reflect back
yeah.
to.
Well, me and my kids have party night on a Friday night.
Amazing.
And we put the disco light. You know those really cheap from Amazon? They're like, you plug them in, there are 5 of the lights. We
Yes.
turn the lights off. We put those on. My kids get Alexa for a few hours, which is obviously Taylor Swift and all of that.
Yeah.
But we have party night, and it's
Love it.
literally sometimes it's just an hour with your pajamas on after dinner. But we love
This is
it,
great.
and they jump up and down, and we just go mad. And I think it's really important to have kitchen discos. And we can all do that, and it's free, and they love it. They love seeing. Who doesn't love seeing your mum dance or your dad? You're like, you absolute idiot.
I've not got to embarrass Ella yet, but she loves
You
me
will.
at the minute dancing. That's she's really into it. As soon as she put music on,
Yeah.
arms flailing around, bums shaking.
Yeah, got
It's so
to,
much fun.
got to.
So you came back from travelling. Amazing time. I mean, we do need to do another podcast because
Yeah, I'm sorry,
there's
everyone.
so much in there that we could start working out and picking from. But just going to who you are now, is that probably the most formative time of your life, then the travelling period to then coming back and getting into work and so on?
Yeah, because the job I was doing, surface pattern, is very much you sit at your computer all day and you sit designing. And as a graphic designer or a fashion designer, it's very serious. You've got to hit these deadlines because we're going to the Far East. And then I was a design manager, so I oversaw quite a high-powered job, 10 people in the studio, but then I'd be getting freelancers to work for me in London, and all across the world there'd be freelancers in Europe. But it didn't fulfill me because it was very corporate, and I didn't realise how much of a people person I am until the backpacking and then the struggle we've been through, obviously dyslexia and that. So for me to go to a school and college now and to help that person, because now I'm a coach as well, a mentor, I coach there's a lot of designers that have gone to uni and then went for one job, didn't get it, didn't apply for a single other one again, and then took a path of getting a job wherever, which is fine, but not doing anything creatively. 10 years on, they're desperate to get back into the creative field, so they come to me and I mentor them. So for me, that's my passion, the people, not the company, not the job. Because I realise we've all struggled. We all have to take some sort of, I don't know what's the word. There's a price for everything, isn't there? And quite often we go where the money is, or we go what's there now.
Yes.
Then 10 years down the line, we're missing something, and what we're missing is we've ignored the creative passion. So for me, that's my why, really.
I love finding your why. I think that's such a powerful moment in life too. And do you feel that's also built from because you had people in your life that give you strong direction and helped you so much from lessons and wisdom, that you understood the gravitas of what that can do to a person, so you're now managing to give that to people?
Yeah, well, the opposite. I saw it not happen for my dad and my mum.
But
So
still them lessons that imprinted in you. Yeah.
So the lessons were watching my mum and dad drift.
Yes.
And
that's what I was alluding
to. And but also, do you know what else from a parent perspective, which I'm going to really struggle with? I'm, as you can tell, a really big force, and I didn't realise. And my mum and dad aren't, but they sat back and they knew not to train the beast. They were like, we've just got to guide her naturally. And I really struggle with that with my daughter, because I'm like, you need to do this, you need to do that. And I've got to watch that, because what I have noticed with friends growing up, the ones whose parents overpowered them, they ended up not doing anything, and it sent them the other way. So you've got to kind of do it in a way,
be an
which
observer
is
and a guide.
Hats off to my parents, because they never told me to go to uni or college. They never told me to do any of that. So it was always on me. And I think when it's on you, you'll do it. Being told to do something. You've talked about your sister. It sounded like that was her that wanted to. It's a big difference, isn't there?
A bit annoying, isn't it, for you? Because when you're told to do something that you want to do, if you're like me and very stubborn, I won't go and do it then. So you've actually stumbled me in my tracks, and it took me a long time to swallow my pride and start doing things. Just knowing if what you've been asked to do is something you truthfully want, you'll still go and do it. And if you've been told to do something and you don't want to do it, you don't have to do it. It's just really getting to a true understanding of self and what you actually want out of life and what you want to achieve. So understanding the exterior voices can be handy at times, but not being taken by it either way of the side of the fence. Because you can get I was just so stubborn as a kid.
Me
so
too.
I'd stop myself doing things I wanted to do from being told to do them, or I'd just stop myself in my tracks anyway because I didn't want to be told what to do. It just wasn't reflective enough. I love the character you are now, though. It's honestly.
Thanks, same.
Can you ask, so we're getting to the end of the podcast, but what is next for you? Because you've got your podcast again, plug it again.
Thank you.
And all the other endeavours that you're up to. If you've got ideas that people don't even know, I'd love an exclusive now.
Well, over Christmas I'm launching a membership programme. So I do coaching, as you know, but I realise that what people want, especially women, that my kind of consumer, that people that come to me are women that have want to get back into design, and they've put the family first. And what people are after is other women. And we're online and it's quite lonely, and there's a lot of designers that don't live in village with other designers. Creative people, we're so sprinkled around. A lot of us don't have other creatives in our family, or the other school mums are teachers, and so we're seeking community. So what I'm launching is this membership program where they'll get some podcasts, that they'll get a say in the podcast. I'll be jumping on and doing like mentorship on a Friday, like a tea and coffee, and we're going to have experts on each month. So that's what I'm really nervous about launching. But I always think when it's something you're nervous about, that's the thing.
It means it's right.
Yeah, so that's the big thing for next year. And the podcast I just love. Even if nobody listens anymore, it's tough. I'm doing it forever. I love it.
Exact same. I love meeting people on that mission, because I'd say podcasting, all the things I've tried out, the videography, the poetry, everything, it's been the biggest learner of my life. Meeting people, hearing their stories, understanding, the mentality behind self when I've been a victim and I've heard other people's stories, and I thought, oh, that's interesting. I may have trapped myself by that, and I've learned so much from just listening to people. It's a beautiful art form, and people don't actually understand it as an art form, podcasting.
Oh, I didn't until it took some work, and listening to yourself talk, and then also sitting back and letting somebody else speak.
Yeah.
That took ages, because I'd be going, and another thing, and another thing.
Well, can you remember, how many episodes are you on now? Similar?
85.
Awesome. Similar amount. So, can you remember the first 10
I
to
can't
the evolution?
listen. Yeah, I
Really?
can't
If you
listen.
went back to listen to them, would you be cringing your butt off?
Yeah. It's just the amount of edits. I think
Yeah.
that's it. Now I don't edit it as much, whereas at first it was like,
Get rid of that.
I said a lot, and we were just a lot more critical.
Oh yeah, that was a big one. That kind of
Yeah,
dislike,
Yeah.
filler words just
Yeah.
because you're nervous, I suppose, or you're trying to fill that sound. And sometimes in storytelling, that can give the most power to it, can't it? When it's the silence rather than trying to fill the sound.
Absolutely.
I think listening to, particularly when I've had older guests on. Now you don't know who you are anyway, but I've had some older guests.
Thanks.
Not you. But again, they're just more matured. They really know how to hold themselves. And when I've had them podcasts and listened to them speak, and the emotional responses they've given to me, and it's all from them pauses and calmness, and then delivering words and how to hold you waiting. Oh, I think that was where I went, I need to change my shit.
Yeah,
I need to work.
You know, my friend Nick, you met, he always says to me, when he's really good at selling, and he always says, when you go in for the deal, it's the silence. You have to say what it is, and then you sit and don't speak. And I can't do that because then I'll go, but it's not that present. Or if you sign up for today, it's a little bit cheaper.
We're so similar, honestly.
Let me give you the money.
Yeah.
I'm terrible for
genuinely done that recently.
You say the price, then you sit,
Yeah.
you let it hang in the air. And my old coach said
Confidently.
the same. But I also didn't realise in films, a lot of the scenes is 80% music. There's quite a few scenes where there just isn't any talking in it, especially in Quentin Tarantino.
Yes, good shout.
And the most powerful scenes are. So there's something about that kind of atmosphere and just letting it be.
The build up.
But it's confidence, isn't it?
I think that the first half an hour in Mad Max, with Tom Hardy.
Yeah.
Absolute just chaos going, but no dialogue at all
Yeah.
for the first half an hour or so. And that is I love being on a podcast and trying to create entertainment just with our voices and so on, but with other art forms, being able to create an atmosphere, create an energy for people without using that, it is really powerful to be able to do. So that's the reason, though, that podcasts, I do believe, are such a new, thriving art form, is because it is hard. It is hard to do, isn't it?
Well, I used to listen to Scoobius Pip a lot, and not many people. I just loved him, and I remember him saying it's actually the Wild West for media because we can get away with saying whatever we want. We can talk about Brexit. We can talk about
Rogan talks about that.
Anything, and it's actually a really exciting time. And we can swear, and we can, and the conversations have become like you've got the BBC doing podcasts because they don't want to seem formal. Like it's changed media as a whole. It's never been so exciting, really.
I don't know if I said this to you last week, but it's a recent thought I had. But when I go and collect a book now, I'm excited, but all the information within it. But I know the process has been really edited. That's somebody's final version of what they want you to see.
Yeah.
Whereas this podcast now, I might have said during all of this things I don't even agree with, things that were a bit flippant, things that are very naked to me and very open and raw. But I keep it in there because it's like having that first draft book. And I love being able to see somebody's first draft of what they really wanted to say and then refining it down and so on. It doesn't feel as natural as a process to me. So I think podcast to me is like doing a book to get people listening to this, and it's the first draft though. This is what we really wanted to say.
Yeah, it's energy meets energy, doesn't it?
Yeah,
and I think that's what it is. And that's, I mean, obviously with your spoken word, you're the best at being able to kind of just do it at that time and follow that feeling.
You
Whereas
should see
it's
me
not
trying
natural.
to freestyle, mate.
Oh God, I don't know how anyone does it.
Freestyling isn't the one for me. We had a freestyler come to do a workshop recently.
Did you?
To another level. He did the podcast. Love you to get him on.
Yeah, which one?
Muzzy Foley.
Right,
He's always on This Morning, Good Morning Britain, and he's been pigeonholed though for ITV as the rapping teacher, and he's actually very smart, very intellectual, got a lot of knowledge in education system, but they use him as a bit of a mockery thing now. They had him rapping recently against Kem off Love Island. And they're like, use this, but they keep calling him up to talk about political issues too, like Corona. And I think, don't get Muzzy on. get a scientist. Stop just keep getting Muzzy up all the time. Oh, we've run out of guests. Muzzy?
Is he cheap?
Seems to be the way. I'll send this to him. He'll be pissing it. But
I love it. Yeah.
He did
Come
this
on, Muzzy, I want you
I'll link you up.
Please.
You'd love that. But he did this game with me at the start of the podcast because he can't do things normally. And I put a beat on. And then there's a random word generator on your phone. And he's going through this beat, and then every so often I just shout potatoes. So I got my potatoes there. They go, but you can just every time. We did 3 minutes, and it was so funny.
That is pure talent.
But then he got me outside in front of 30 kids to rap battle him.
Oh no!
It was the worst thing I've ever been through.
I went for a poo at 2:30 on the loo.
Yeah. I mean, that was better than I did.
I'm all out now.
Yeah, at least there was 3 lines together. I had one and then just ran. No, he's so talented. That's one of the art forms, freestyling, that I just go, what are you doing? Doesn't make any sense to me. I don't understand how you're plucking it, because I can do that in conversation, but for it to be sensical, have a rhyming scheme and pattern, metaphor in there, I'm going, no, not off the spot. That's genius.
It is. It's unbelievable. When I watch people, I'm in awe.
Yeah, that's 100%.
Love it.
Emma, this has been a genuine pleasure. I see you as a proper friend now, you know. You heard my story, I've heard yours. I think we could do this again. It'd be beautiful. There's a lot in both our stories I'm sure we could start unpicking and unfolding. So you're an amazing human. Can you tell people where they can find out everything about you, all the stuff they need to know?
Oh, thanks so much, Mike. Honestly, it's been an absolute pleasure. It's been a privilege. I've been watching you from afar for ages, and so
hang on a minute.
Come on, but yeah, to be on here, really thank you so much. So everyone can find me over at Creative Ways Podcast or Emma Isaacs Designs is emmaisaacs.co.uk. Come and say hi, and I always love to meet new friends. So yeah,
amazing. Is your website as crazy and beautiful and colourful as you are?
It's very colourful, but it has to be, doesn't it?
I really thought it might, because I love your layout of your podcast as well.
Oh, thank you.
It looks brilliant. You put a lot of time and effort into that, and I applaud it.
Oh, thanks. Well, same. I love your stuff.
We do. There's sometimes I think, because we do so much, you can get a bit messy and lost in that, can't you?
Yeah.
But I love how you formulated yours, and you've got a real structure to it. So you've inspired me. I'm going to look at how we can structure ours a little bit differently and cleaner, because it can be a bit sporadic and all out there.
I think you overthink. Honestly,
Okay,
your
you
stuff's,
sure?
Yeah, it's spot on.
Thank you, Emma. Honestly, guys, you've been a part of the Old Farm Bus, Back of the Bus Sessions podcast. I'm going to leave you on this forevermore, and I'm going to always do this podcast. Be nice to one another, you beautiful buggers. That's all you got to do. Have a good day. Cheers, Emma.
Thank you.
Thank you.